Hi everybody, this is Ibarionex from the Candid Frame. And before we begin, I want to let you know that I'm going to be teaching two photography workshops. The first of which is going to be in May, on May 5th and 6th, through the Los Angeles Center of Photography. And there I'll be teaching my 2-day Working the Streets workshop, where I demonstrate how I set my cameras, how I work out in the street, evaluating light and shadow, how I approach strangers, as well as how I cull through my images, deciding which ones are the best, and how I process them in Lightroom. And as well, I'll be providing in-depth critiques for the images that are produced by the students who participate in the class, much like what you see me do here on the videos. And if you're not going to be in the Los Angeles area, but you are going to be in the Bay Area in June, I'll be part of this SF Street Photo Fest that happens every year up in the Bay Area. And I'll be teaching a 2-day workshop there as well. And that's going to be part of a week-long event where there are going to be a lot of photographers, a lot of lectures and presentations that you want to check out by going to streetfoto.org. And that's photo spelled F-O-T-O, so streetfoto.org. I'll have links for both in the show notes, and you can check it out. And hopefully I'll see some of you there at the workshop and the events. Now, one of the things that I want to talk to you about today is one of the things that I'm always trying to do for myself as a photographer is to challenge myself, to push myself. And as we all know, with street photography, there are a lot of tropes. There's a lot of cliches that we often face that we get suckered into all the time. We make these pictures and there's really nothing special or exceptional. We've seen other people produce it all the time. And even if we do it well, we sometimes just get into a rut and just repeat that same image over and over again. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to find scenes that I can make a little more complicated. And I chose 3 images to kind of illustrate that. Okay, here we have a shot by Vasco Trancoso. This was made with a Leica Q at 1/500th of a second, f/16 ISO 400. So you guys recognize this scene. You find an interesting wall or backdrop. The light is great on it, and all you need are some human figures to come into the frame. And typically what we do is we wait for the single human figure to come into the frame to help complete the shot. And what I've been trying to do is when I face a situation like this is to include more than one person. 2, 3, 4, as many as I can get away with and not allow the shot to fall apart. And one of the key things to making that happen is making sure that there's separation between each of the figures in the frame. Otherwise, if the figures are overlapping each other, it makes it very difficult to cleanly read any one of the figures. And then the shot becomes just a hot mess. Vasco here does a really nice job in terms of these 4 figures, having pretty good separation between all 4. We have the girl here in the foreground. We have this little girl here in the background. We have this couple here. And even though they're pretty close to each other and they seem merged at the waist, you can see that there is some separation here between the man and the woman, which is really important. Had that not been there, it would not work as effectively as it does now. And it's this separation when you have multiple elements in the frame that is really essential. And when you're shooting something like this, the trick is timing, because the issue is all about, will the people, when they come into the exact area in the frame where you need them to be for the shot, will there be enough separation? And more often than not, there won't be. And that's why I strongly suggest standing in a spot for 20 or 30 minutes, however long you need to be there, until something happens where you get the right characters and the right separation between the figures to make them pan out. One of the other things that I really like about this photograph is the color play. We obviously have this yellow strip at the bottom here, and we have this very strong blue here, but I love that blue of the man's sunglasses here that's caught here right at the edge of the frame. I think it's really, really nice. I don't like that this little girl is so close to the edge of the frame there. I would have liked to have had a little more breathing room here on the left-hand side. But with a moment like this, it can be very tricky to sort of time it and get it right. So there may have been like a millisecond between this moment and the moment afterwards. I don't recommend using a burst mode on your camera because it's really critical to get the exact moment right by, sort of anticipating it and then pressing the button. But, it's something to be aware of next time that you're shooting. Next, we have a shot by Vitor Damasio. We don't have any XF data here. This looks to be a sort of playground or park where people are playing at or practicing parkour, that art where people sort of jump across walls and buildings and do a lot of crazy stunts. It looks like this is what's happening in this scene. And this scene demonstrates another thing that I really strive to do with my photography, is trying to get disparate actions or elements that are happening in front of me and try and make them play off of each other in the frame. You know, we have this guy in the lower left hand corner with his two hands on the rail and his legs sticking up, and then when they have this guy here who looks like he's about to take a leap off of this to probably another structure just out of frame. And so these guys, even though they're involved in the same activity, they're in two different worlds at the moment. And the challenge is, as a photographer, can I somehow make something work here? Now, one of the nice things that you have here, much like the previous image, is you have a very interesting setting for the shot. You have these repeating shapes, these blocks, these rectangles, these squares. You obviously have these wonderful colors that play throughout the entire frame. So in terms of the setting, like the shot before, you've got a great starting place. But now it's an issue of timing. Now it's a matter of, can I get a shot where the two figures are doing something interesting that play off of each other? And here you got the guy here on the swing with his legs sticking up, which I think is great. And then you have this guy here who looks like he's about to take a leap. And I think this is almost there for me. I mean, this is good because I love the lines that are created by the legs here. You can see the triangle here, and the triangles everywhere. You can see the triangle here, and you can see this moment of him just about to take the leap. And for me, I would have loved the moment just as he's taking the leap, because I think it would have been just a better moment in order to capture. I think there's a lot of tension in here and this sort of this anticipation of what he's going to do, but it just seems like, oh, I would have loved that second beat. And that's kind of what part of what working the street in this way requires, is this sense of anticipation of you're seeing both of these things happening at the same time, and you're trying to read both of them simultaneously in terms of what's happening, the kinds of lines and shapes that these two people are apt to create within those moments. And then you really sort of have to just take a breath and then just wait for the moment that you think is going to happen to reveal itself. And when it does, snapping the shutter. And sometimes you can be tempted to take it a little too early just because you want to get something. And moments like this are filled with tension for me, because I don't know how it's going to play out. Anything could happen. But usually I can get a pretty good read of what's going to happen, particularly if people are repeating certain actions. Because with skateboarders, they're always repeating the same tricks over and over and over again in order to pull them off, because most of the time they're failing. But when they fail, you can observe where they launch from, where they land, all of those things. And you can start to figure out where they likely will be at the moment you want to make the photograph. And I suspect that all of this stuff that was happening was being repeated over and over again. So that's one of the advantages that you can have when you're observing someone who's doing a repeated action. And then if you have multiple people doing a repeated action within the frame, then it can be really magical. But you have to be patient, and you have to be really incisive in terms of your looking in order to be able to pull it off. Here we have a shot by Michael Nirenberg. This was created with a Fujifilm X-T20, 1/500th of a second, f3.6, ISO 200. So this is a shot where timing is everything. We have an interesting setting, but like the parkour shot, what we're witnessing here is an assembly line of these people taking these plastic pots, filling them with dirt, and then putting a plant in. So this is basically an assembly line. So we're seeing actions that are repeated over and over and over again, allowing the photographer, as he observes the scene, to sort of anticipate what the gestures and what the body language is going to be at any given moment, and to figure out, well, what is my shot going to be? And Michael here does a really nice job, because he has this guy here with the arms coming here to pick up one of these plant holders, which I'm assuming he gives to the woman here who's putting dirt into one, and then the woman here who's actually putting the plants in there. And you can see a couple here that have already been filled with dirt. So you're seeing this thing play out in front of you. And the challenge is, can you get an interesting shot in which all three figures are doing something interesting in the frame that complement each other? And I think Michael succeeds in that, because you have all three elements of the story that are revealed here. You're getting the man about to pick up one of these plastic tubs. You have the woman here filling it with dirt, and you have the woman here putting in the plant. And each of them is producing a really interesting gesture. Obviously, this grand gesture of the arm coming in is a really strong anchor for the shot. And then we see the two hands here going into the dirt, and then we see her here planting it with a nice smile on her face. And all of these things come together really nicely, not only graphically, but in order to be able to tell the shot. And you can see here that this shot, we don't have that clean separation that we had in the first shot, which normally would be problematic. But here, I don't mind it as much, because it's more about what's happening with her arms and her hands with the bucket here than it is the expression on her face. Would I have liked to see a little bit of her face as she was going down here? Maybe. But I would imagine that Michael took several shots with several variations, which may have included her face, and he just felt that this one worked better. And I kind of lean towards thinking that it probably would likely have been the best shot, this shot that he uploaded here to our group. Now, one of the things about a scene like this is, like, I don't know how many shots you would have to take in order to get this moment. Some photographers are just too lazy to shoot more than 3 or 5 images because they think there's a better shot around the corner, and so they'll leave and they'll go find something else. A scene like this, I will work it for as long as I have to until I know I came away with a good shot. Because this thing is, even though the actions are repeatable in terms of the hand placements, the figure placements, they're not going to be the same from second to second to second. They're always going to be changing. The timing, the rhythm of these people is going to be changing all the time. So for you as the photographer, you just have to sort of make yourself a fixture and just ride with it. Ride that wave until you pull off the shot. And I'm glad that Michael did, because I think this is a really nice shot. Thanks for joining me. If you want to contribute to the Candid Frame Flickr Pool, you can do so by going to Flickr on your computer and ask to be added. Just do a search on the Candid Frame and I'll be glad to add you. Avoid trying to do it on your tablet or your phone. You won't succeed. You'll get a notification that it's a private group and blah, blah, blah. If that's what you're experiencing, instead, go to your computer and try to add there, and I'll be glad to add you. I usually get to it once a week. And if you want to find out more about the Candid Frame is a podcast in which I interview photographers about their work and their careers. We have an app for it that's absolutely free that you can download for both Android and for Apple iOS, so you can listen to the over 411 episodes that we have. And if you love photography, you'll love the Candid Frame, because it provides you insights into what it means to lead a creative life. And if you love what we're doing here on the YouTube channel, please subscribe and help spread the word. So thanks a lot for joining us. I'll see you next time.